Alright, hello and welcome to this episode of T-Tech. And on today's episode, we're going to be installing Smoothwall Linux, Smoothwall Express. And this is a Linux distribution that is well suited just to be a firewall. So the first thing we want to do is search for Smoothwall and click the link here for smoothwall.org. And once you get here, you actually want to click on Smoothwall Open Source Community. Now, the quickest way to download it is go up here to the Download tab. Then you want to go down to the different editions. The i586 is for 32-bit, and the 64 is for newer computers that are 64-bit. Now, the developer edition is for, if we can get it highlighted, is for if you want to compile new things into Smoothwall and help with the development. And of course, those come in the same versions. And the off-road edition is for testing your hardware compatibility before you commit to the installation. So if we go back up, there's an important point here. This does say released 21st October 2014, and if we look, it is April 9th, 2019. Now, do not be dissuaded by that. There's updates to the system after you install it. 3.1 is the major release version, but there's small updates that happen. So after we install this, we can bring it up to date. So at this point, though, the main rule, if you have an older PC that is only 32-bit, like a Pentium 2 or a Pentium 4 or something like that, go ahead and do the i586. But if you have like an Intel Core 2 Duo or something a little bit newer, do the 64-bit version. So we'll click the 64-bit version here. And it actually just goes right to Smoothwall. And this will start the download. Make sure Save File selected, and then hit OK. And once that is done, we're going to move on to installing it. So I'll see you there. Okay, welcome back. So I completed the download, and I saved it to a folder called Smoothwall Test on my computer. Now, important, you want to come back here to the original download page that we started on, where it says MD5 here and SHA-1. These are the checksums, and that basically means this value, it needs to match the file we downloaded from when it was released. Otherwise, it could have been corrupted or maliciously modified. So how do we check it? Well, we want to go back to where we downloaded it. And if I do an ls here, we're going to do the command md5 sum space and then the file name. And now if we hit enter, it calculated the value. Now, one of the easiest ways to cross-reference it is hit copy on whatever system you're on, and then do /, and then just shift insert. And as we can see, the 3.1 64-bit MD5 hash does match. Now we do also want to verify the SHA-1 just to be double sure about this. So I believe it is SHA-1 sum, at least on Linux. Do the same thing. And we want to copy this and do the same search. And now the Smoothwall Express 3.1 SHA-1 matches. So if they didn't match, go back, make sure you're on sourceforge.net when you download it, and make sure it is not, well, if it is corrupted, just go back and download it again. And make sure everything matches. If you were to download the development or the off-road version, it's the same procedure. Alright, so now we've got it downloaded. At this point, you can just either boot it up in VirtualBox or VMware Player. And I'm actually going to use VirtualBox for the rest of the installation here. You can also just burn it to an ISO file. And there is another cool thing you can do with it that we'll see if we can get into, at least touch on in the installation. So I'll see you there. Okay, now we are in VirtualBox here. And what you want to do is we just made a generic Linux VM here. And I just said other Linux 64-bit. And what we want to do from there is go under Storage. And you want to go down here to the CD icon, so it'll be up here on the VDI file by default. You want to go to the disk icon. And then you would just go over here and choose a virtual drive to select that to boot off of. Now though, since this is a firewall, and you're going to at least have a LAN and WAN interface, you need two interfaces. So by default, at least how VirtualBox works, is there's only one. So we want to go to the Network tab. Under here, under Adapter 1, it says Attached to NAT. Now there's a built-in feature in VirtualBox for this, but I'm actually going to choose Internal Network. Now you can label this whatever you want. Ours is LAN in this case. And under the Advanced tab, you can leave the adapter model how it is. This is just the network card that VirtualBox is going to show the VM to pretend that it has. Promiscuous mode is just for receiving packets that aren't destined for the MAC address. So frames, in other words. But what we're actually going to do with the MAC address, we have the convenience to do this because we're in a VM. The last octet of that address is going to be 01 in this case. Now we need to go over to Adapter 2. Check the box that says Enable Network Adapter. This one, though, is not going to be like internal in our computer. This one is going to be bridged to our real adapter and go out to our network. So we're going to say bridge adapter. In this case, it's ENP1S0. If you're on Windows, it would just say, local area network connection or your wireless card or something. Same deal with the adapter type and what promiscuous mode does. And now, though, we want to end this MAC address with 02. And you'll see why once we start the installation. Alright, so to summarize, we went to storage. We found our ISO and put it in there. And our hard drive size is 20 gigabytes. And if we go to System, I gave this virtual machine 512 megabytes. As far as I know, there isn't any other features we have to change to make this work. So I'll see you in 1 second, and we'll boot this up and get it installed. Alright, this is the first screen we see after we boot this up. And if you burn this to, a physical CD or DVD, it will just boot up, and you'll see this as well. So there's no difference between this and a real computer in most cases. So what we want to focus on is install Smoothwall Express. But also, if we go to other options, this option here, I didn't know about this, but you can make this so it can boot off a flash drive as well, so a USB stick. But you have to put the stick in after it's formatted to FAT32, I believe, and then hit this button, and then it will make a bootable ISO for you, a bootable flash drive for Smoothwall. So that way you can kind of install this on newer machines that you don't have a CD-ROM drive or you don't have a disk anymore. You don't have disks available to you. But what we're going to do is just go to the main menu. Oh, as well, before I forget, serial console. So if you're installing on an APU or something that doesn't have VGA or DVI output, you can just use that as well. But we'll return to main menu and install Smoothwall Express. Just hit enter there to have it boot up for you. All right, and so once we get here, it just do as it says, don't hit cancel or it will reboot. We'll want to hit enter. And dev SDA is our hard drive in this computer. Now, very important, once you hit OK, this is going to partition the drive and format those partitions. So everything that is on the drive currently, prior to installing Smoothwall, is going to be erased. And you won't be able to get it back, so be careful with this. So we're okay with this though, and we know that we don't have anything important on there, so we're going to hit OK. And it warns you one more time. If you made a mistake, hit cancel at this point. But we're going to hit OK. And now it's in the oven cooking. So it is fairly quick. Just installs the files and makes the partitions and everything. It's a very straightforward installation. Okay, it's installed. So at this point, you just hit OK. And if you're running it and you're updating it, you can restore the config, but we're not going to do that here. We're just going to say no. And here we want to choose our key map. We're going to say US. And we're going to say the time zone. And the machine's host name of Smoothwall is OK. Just make sure there's no hyphens or any special characters in the host name. Hit the tab key to go down to OK and hit enter. Now, interestingly, this does have features that block outgoing connections as well. So, inside of the mechanisms of how Linux does packet filtering with NetFilter, this, just boiling it down, it can control not just what is received from the internet, but what can come from your LAN to the internet as well. Now, to get started, we'll just say open, because otherwise you may have things blocked you're not expecting. Very unlikely, but it can happen. If you want to go crazy, you can do closed, and then really just poke holes in your outgoing traffic. We'll say open. Now, we are going to start now with a network configuration type. This means how many interfaces your system has and the security of them. So we're going to click here. And the red is modem ISDN. This is for dial-up. And we generally don't need this, but if you need that, just select that. Same thing with this one. But the main ones we're talking about are green and red. Now, green is your LAN, so that's where your computers will be that you want to keep safe. And red is the WAN, so your internet connection. If you have a DMZ and you want to protect servers in the DMZ and separate them from green, you can go ahead and do a green, orange, and red. And then you could also change it up and do a purple. Purple, I believe, is for wireless. And same thing here, you can apply the ISDN to most of these configurations. For now, though, we're just going to do a basic green and red configuration. Just make sure if you do want to run servers, you should use an orange. You don't have to, but it's highly recommended. Okay, now this is why I changed the MAC addresses coming up. You'll see. Hit card assignments. Hit OK. It found one card. This one was 02. Remember, in VirtualBox, that's bridged to our real Ethernet adapter. So we're going to assign it to red. And 01 is our internal network inside of VirtualBox. So we're going to assign this to green. All cards are A-OK, so we're going to hit OK. Go down now to address settings and click for green. And it's just saying if you're logged in, the connection will break. And the main thing with this, if you have like a certain modem that may have an IP like 0.1 or 1.1 or something, this is where you can change that. Or if you just have different needs, anything like that. Especially if you get orange, you have to change it to something else so they're not on the same subnet. But right now, we're going to use 10.1. So that, with a /24 network mask, that just means any computers that start their IP addresses with 192.168.10 are in the 192.168.10.0/24 network. So any computers can be assigned an address except .1, because that's our green interface address from 1 to 254. That is our entire range. So we're going to hit OK. And you can change the subnet mask. If I do 128, that is now a /25, and now we have 126 hosts, but we have two subnets, so we could break that up on green and orange. But generally, you don't have to change this, especially in a private addressing scenario like we have. So now we're going to go to red. And if you have a static IP, you just put that in here. If you have PPPoE, you can specify that. We're going to specify DHCP. Again, make sure your host name doesn't have any special characters. Hit OK. And we're going to say done. Now, if you did specify a static address for your red interface, put your primary DNS here, your secondary DNS, and your default gateway for the red. But we used DHCP, so we don't have to specify those. DHCP will provide them for us from our ISP. Okay, hit done again. And this is pretty cool. It has a web proxy with Squid built in. You can do your ISDN configuration, your ADSL configuration here. And for this lab, we're assuming we have like a cable modem, so we're not going to deal with these configurations. But we do need a DHCP server. Even if you have DSL, you need a DHCP server on your LAN. So this will automatically assign IP addresses in the network of the green interface. So we're going to hit the space bar to enable this. Hit tab. And you can specify the range from 10.100 to 10.200 like it is now. But anything from 1 to 254 I could technically specify, but don't specify 192.168.10.1 if you're following along, because that's our green. If you do that, they'll have a duplicate IP address error, and you won't be able to get out to the internet because one of them's going to think they're the gateway when they're not. So keep that as it is, and it does have built-in DNS with DNS Masquerade, but we're specifying a secondary DNS. 4222 is fine. And keep everything else the same. You can put like test or home or something in there for your domain name suffix. But with all that, we'll hit OK. And finished. Now, this is the admin password when you log into the web interface. And we'll just put password as the password. And this is the root account for when you log into the shell. Again, we'll put password 1. Password 1. Again, because you want to separate the password. So if admin was compromised, they still couldn't compromise root. They're at least slowed down. Get OK with that. And as it says, it's now complete. So just hit OK, and we're all good. And I will see you in 1 second, and we'll go over some basic things. Alright, we're booted up. So now we're going to log in as root with the password we gave it. And now we're at a bash prompt. So this is the main way, just like any Unix system, to control the system and run programs and everything like that. So we'll just run top here. That shows you everything the system is doing at the moment. And another one, free-m. And that shows you the memory it's using. Right now, it is actually using 34 megabytes. You have 460 megabytes free. And the used is simply everything the kernel has given to processes. But usually, you want to focus on buffers and cache. But anyway, now that we've done a little bit with the CLI, we'll go ahead and boot up a client and then connect to the web interface. So I'll see you in 1 second. Okay, in this part, we're going to go into the Smoothwall web interface and take a look around. So I am connected into the Smoothwall's green interface, and we're going to just open up a web browser here. Now, it's very important, make sure you go to the green IP address. So we're going to go https://192.168.10.1. Very important with the port number. The port number is 441 for SSL and 81 for HTTP. So we're going to do :441. Now, this is normal. It's a self-signed certificate. So we're going to go to Details, go on to the web page. In here, we put in the admin password we gave it during the installation. And this is our web interface. This is the basic page of it. Down here, you see the IP address of the Smoothwall itself on the red interface, and remote is the gateway at your ISP. And you see some information about the data through there. So the first thing we'll do is go here to the About page. This shows us the information about services running on our Smoothwall. So it just shows you if they're on or not, the name, and how long they have been running. Under Advanced, we can see things like the output of the free command with some graphs, the df command, some inode information, the w command, and some ifconfig output as well for our interfaces. Looking at our routing table here, an LSPCI output, and the modules that we're using in our firewall. And as well, the kernel version. So let's go here to Traffic Graphs. This shows us the information about how much data our firewall has passed over certain amounts of time. You can see on each interface. And if you had orange or purple, they would show up here as well. Bandwidth bars is just the real-time bandwidth of IP addresses on your network. Traffic monitor is the overall bandwidth usage on an interface, and also for the IP addresses. My Smoothwall is a service that allows you to get into the Smoothwall remotely. Even when you sign up, though, you do have to allow this traffic in. So you don't necessarily even have to sign up, but it's a very nice way to keep track of your Smoothwall. And services, you have a Squid Web Proxy. Now this by default does not do man-in-the-middle, I believe, with SSL certificates. But there's mods on community.smoothwall.org to enable that as well. URL filter uses SquidGuard to filter specific websites and things you don't want going through your network. And as you can see, there's whitelists, and you can even do expressions and things. And you have quite a few options with this one. You have an instant messaging proxy. If you are using that, you can do man-in-the-middle with this and monitor instant messages. You have a POP3 proxy that will scan email before getting to your mail server. A SIP proxy that sits between this and things like your IP phones and anything that uses SIP. These are your DHCP server settings. Add static assignments and those things. Dynamic DNS will help you link your IP address, especially if it's dynamic, to if it changes, it just changes the domain name. So you can have one domain name, even if it changes, you can still access it by domain name. Setec Dns will allow you to tell it, the DNS server inside of Smoothwall, to map a host with a specific host name and give that answer back to clients. So if you have a server on your network, you can specify its host name, put it in here, the clients will always get that. or even for your computers on your network. Here is Snort for an intrusion detection system, and that allows you to scan for bad traffic in the network and react to it. Remote access lets you enable SSH if you want, or only admin access from referral URLs. Oops. And this is all your time settings, and you can enable a time server here as well. And in the networking tab, this is where you'll spend quite a bit of the time with the Smoothwall, these are your port forwards, and they will change the source and destination of packets as they go through your firewall. So you could have it as a public side coming in on your WAN. You can change that destination to be the private side in your network. So if you're running a server, you'd put that there. Or if you need something like NAT reflection, you can also put that there. So traffic from your green could be reflected to go back on orange without having to use split DNS or anything like that. The Outgoing tab. This is for traffic on the green interface. And during the installation, it asks us about a default policy. This is what that applies to. So allowed with exceptions. That means everything is allowed except if we put an exception here, those packets will be dropped. And you can also specify always allowed machines that will bypass these rules regardless. And if you set this to blocked with exceptions, it will block everything. You have to come in here and add like port 80, port 443 traffic you need to get out. So careful with that one. Internal will allow hosts on your orange or purple networks to talk to your green. By default with Smoothwall, if it's sourced from the green network, you can get to orange and purple if it's sourced there. But if those two segments try to talk to green, they won't be allowed if it's sourced from those IP addresses. But here, we can just put in what we need to have them talk to the green network if we wish. External access is for traffic going directly to the Smoothwall, so directly to this IP, a service running on this IP. Now there is something here in Smoothwall. It actually allows 113 by default. If you want, you can mark it by checking this box and remove, and I would recommend that. IP block allows you to block specific IPs. You can log them if you wish. And timed access is for only allowing machines at specific times of the day to access the internet. Quality of service will allow you to better utilize your bandwidth on your WAN, and overall it'll give you a smoother internet connection. There's a lot of presets down here as well for different traffic. Advanced is things like you can block ICMP echo requests, and it is a diagnostic tool, so it isn't blocked by default. If you want to block it, just check the box here and hit save, and you're all good. And you can also, if you have an Xbox or a PlayStation, enable UPnP, and it will be able to open ports, request that the firewall open ports to itself, the device that's requesting. Send cookies is a good security feature. It sits in front of your servers, and it will complete the TCP request through a handshake. So the server doesn't have to talk directly to the client on the internet to set up that connection. So if you're scanning with something like Nmap, they'll only see traffic from the Smoothwall, not the server, so they can't find out what's running on the server or anything. Block and ignore multicast traffic. This blocks packets with a destination multicast address. So if you're running routing protocols or video streaming like IPTV, you want to uncheck this box. Otherwise, it will be dropped. This logs invalid packets with things like TCP packets that have invalid flags like SYN and FAN. You wouldn't have those set at the same time, so that will drop that, log it for you. And if there's anything else that is bad, we can reject it. That sends a response that it was rejected. If you don't want that, and you don't want to send a response at all, set it to drop, and hit save, and there you go. PPP is for if you have a connection where you have to authenticate with point-to-point protocol before it will come up and be able to be used. That deals with this. Your interfaces gives you a place here to change those parameters again. You can also log directly into the Smoothwall, but after you get it set up, you may just want to use the interface. Do be careful if you change this that you don't lock yourself out, though. And then, of course, this is for the WAN. If you want to override your maximum transmission unit that you get from your ISP, you can do that as well if you have a non-standard one, and also override the DNS servers they give you. Now, under VPN here, this is a basic site-to-site VPN. And if you go to connections, you can, in a nutshell, set up the source here and the destination. And it was designed to go, I believe, through between two smooth walls, and it will allow them to have a secure tunnel between them. There is mods, though, at community.smoothwall.org that will actually allow things like OpenVPN, and it will install that for you. Those are ways you can expand on this. And your logs are everything going on in the Smoothwall. You can do a lot of different logging here and finding out what's going on. You can sort by day, month, and all those things here. If you have the POP3 proxy on, you'd see if it detected viruses as well. The tools menu is diagnostic information. Let's say you have an IP address that's scanning you or something. You can look them up here. You can set up just basic diagnostics, see if you have internet connectivity, just in general. And if you have SSH enabled, you can use Java and get a shell on there as well. Or you can just enable SSH in general and just SSH to the machine. Smooth Info is a very good tool for if you need help on the forums. If you have a problem, you can check the default here, or whatever, whoever's helping you, they'll say, send me this information, send me your IP information, send me your routing table, something like that. And you can go through here and get fine-grained with what you pull out of your logs and things. Web server log, system log, the D message, maybe if it's not detecting hardware or something. You can also provide client IP, your firewall rules lists, your other information, and anything else you want to add. If you provide a schematic, you can go through here and check what your network has. So let's say I have my WAN, so I have my modem, so I'll check that. And then it goes to my router, and then I'm off of my green, I have a switch, and I have a wireless access point off of that. And maybe I have an orange and another switch. So if I put that information there, you can also click these boxes here to make it go away there on the bottom. If you generate the report, it says hit OK. And you come down here, what you would do is just, you have all the information that we selected about the Smoothwall. And you can just go ahead and select all, copy, and you would just paste that into your forum post. So that is the basic information with this page. The last page to go through is maintenance real quick. So these are the updates, and in the beginning I said don't be dissuaded by the date of the release, because the actual last update was February 9th of this year. So all you have to do is hit update, and that will apply all the updates. And actually with this, with the update, one of the updates, I don't remember which one added it, there's a show IP button at the top as well that gets added. And just in general, under the hood improvements. So modem is for, I believe, like a dial-up modem, but I am not entirely sure, to be honest with you. So SpeedTouch, it's a specific firmware for another modem. Password, you can change the admin password or the dial password if you need to. Backup allows you to back up your settings and create images of them to help you restore. In your drop-down menus, you can enable or disable them, always use English if you want, and shutdown allows you to reboot and shut down the smoothie. So with that, oh, one more thing actually. If you are on any page and you need assistance, click this help icon here. And again, it's a self-signed certificate. Here you can read about every little piece of thing you need help with. We go to services, web proxy. We didn't know how to set these settings because there is quite a bit this can do, and it's quite a bit to wrap your head around. So all these things here, you can go through and see how to set them and what everything means. But with that, that's a basic walkthrough of installing Smoothwall, how to download it, install it, and a little bit about how the interface works. So I do hope you found this video enjoyable, and I hope it helped. So with all that, I'm Tyler with T-Tech, and have a very nice day.